Hello everyone, welcome back, and I'm going to be showing you how to use classes and objects in C# development. So how do we use them and what are they for? Well, let's say we have an application that keeps track of employees. Well, we need a way to represent an employee in our application. In this case, we're going to create a class called employee, and this class has properties. So what makes up an employee? Well, they have a first name, and we're going to go ahead and set it as a type of string. We also have a last name, and let's say we want to keep track of their age. This is our very first class, and the name of this class is employee. There's 3 properties to this class: first name, last name, and age. So how do we actually create an employee in our application? Well, let's go ahead and type employee because we're going to create a variable that's of type employee. Let's say they are our very first employee. So first employee, and that's the name of the variable. And we're going to go ahead and create the object. So equals new. And in this case, it's going to be the employee class, open and close parentheses, to instantiate this object. So it's the same way as we've done in the past in prior videos, where we create a string and the variable name is name equals John. When creating an object, we have a type and we have the name of the variable, but in this case, we are instantiating an object. So now we have an object which holds these 3 properties. If we were to say console write line first employee, would we be able to see these properties outputted to the output window? Well, let's give it a try. Let's see, it says hello world and then just the word employee. And that's because it's outputting the actual object. In this case, it's an employee object. So it just says employee. So how do we access these properties? Well, first we want to go ahead and make sure that they're public, so we have access to these properties. And in this case, we're going to go ahead and make them all public. And let's assign some values to the object properties. So I'm going to say first employee dot age equals, let's do 25. First employee dot first name equals John. And first employee dot last name equals, let's just say Johnson. Okay, so let's go ahead and now put the object to the console, and we don't really see anything that's different. Hello world and employee, because we're still outputting the object itself. So it pretty much just says, hey, this is an employee object. So in this case, you can then access the properties the same way that we assigned properties. And so if we wanted to output their first name, we'd say first employee dot first name. And let's run it one more time. And what do we get? Hello world John. And that's how you use objects and classes. This is the very beginning. So all 3 properties are public. You have access to the properties as long as you have the object name. In this case, it's first employee. But let's talk about constructors. Let's say you want to create, I don't know, 5 employees. Then you'd have to do this. Employee, second employee equals new employee. And then you'd have to say second employee equals age 25. Second employee would be Beth. And second employee last name would be James. And so a lot of times you end up writing more lines of code as you assign the values to the properties. How can we fix that in some ways, or how can we find help? Well, there is what's called the constructor. So these are the properties. And let's go ahead and build a constructor inside of our class. And so let's just type the word public, employee, which would be the same, open and close parentheses, open and close brackets, and the parentheses are going to be taking the arguments for the values of our properties. And so in this case, we're going to say first name, string, last name, and integers and age. And we're just going to say, hey, we want to assign those values to our properties in our class. So first name equals first name, last name equals last name, and age equals age. And this is a bit confusing, so I'm going to change the names for our parameters. In this case, I'm just going to add a T in the very beginning. I'm going to do the same for this one, just so we can keep track of what's what. And I'm going to add a T underscore on age as well. And so as you can see, whoops, it actually changed them. So as you can see, we are referencing the property first name, but the value comes from the constructor here, the parameter. So now instead of doing all this, we can delete this. We can delete these 3 lines. And we can say the first name is John. Last name is Johnson. And he's 35. He just got a bit older. We're going to say it's Beth James, and she is, whoops, 28. And as you can tell, now we have created 2 employees, and we can always, for example, keep them in an array. We can say employee array equals, whoops, new employee, and we say first employee and second employee. It makes things a lot easier. Let's say we want to iterate through the employee list. We can say I equals 0. And we want to output the names of the employees, so it'll be console.writeLine, and then oops, I dot oops, sorry about that, employee I dot first name, and let's get rid of this here. And so we're saying we wrote a for loop, and for every employee, as long as I is less than the length of the employee array, we want to output the employee array element with the property first name to the console. So let's run this real quick. And what do we have? Well, it says hello world, John and Beth. And so you can see how creating classes and objects makes things a lot easier in programming, as you know, everything is encapsulated in the employee class for anything related to the employee, and you can kind of keep that a lot more organized. Now, let's say that we want to output the first and last name. Well, we can create a method that'll give us the full name. So we'll say get full name, and we'll say return first name plus last name. And so here we see we're concatenating the first name with an empty string space and then last name. So let's go ahead and change this to .get full name. So now we're accessing that method. That'll go ahead and return the full name. Let's run this one more time. And you can see it says hello world, John Johnson, and Beth James. So we can also change that to say, instead of hello world, we'll say current employees. There we go. Let's run it one more time. And we have our current employee list, John Johnson, Beth James. And that's it for today. If you guys liked the video, this is an introduction to classes and objects. Hit the like button and subscribe.